Okay, so I decided to look into the Pulse application after finding out that something else had broke with the whole process. Um, and I didn't actually get to fixing it, but I realized that I needed to set up this application so that we could accomplish what we wanted to with having placement worker processes, at least the essence of that. So anyway, I commented already to Chuck that I liked the code that was here. It was very easy for me to kind of extract from this, and it was very linear to understand what the heck was happening. It was fairly simplistic, but anyway, I wanted to show how I schnazzed it up. Before I do, let me show you, because at the risk of potentially being very complicated, I want to show you the benefit that at least my vision of what has established from this. So to start with, as you can see, I'm just focusing on the Google form here, and pretty much it still has the same thing. There's a stop. I added a stop button in addition to start. I'll show what that means. Then I found in the macro you had it doing 2 steps. I kind of broke it out. I realized that what I figured is that each page really should be a step, and there were 4 distinct pages going on, 4 distinct click activities that don't necessarily have to have a logical pause between them, but they could logically, there might be a break. So in order to really test this and just see the basic elegance of what it's doing, you need an account. So crap. I had a browser window up. Can someone paste me a good username maybe that we can use? So I have the object that I called browser, and browser is a property, and it'll automatically invoke an IE what-in object if it needs to. But I actually have it first checking to see if it can connect to an existing browser. This seems a little buggy though. I'm not quite sure. Sometimes it works, sometimes it fails the first time it needs to be run again. But the idea here. Always create a new one. Yeah, I would agree about clearing the cookies, but I hated the fact that it left me with a bunch of open applications. Right. Okay, well, so attaching to a current one, I think should be at least done if you're in debug mode and there is an available window, but for some reason it errors out when doing it the first time, and it doesn't seem to want to let go of that error, and you have to just rerun it, and so it will do that, but it needs to come back in and try a couple times. In any event, the property will detect if it has one. Notice it goes to a catch block here, and if it didn't get one, then it knows that it's nothing and it invokes a new one. So you don't have to I just made it a property so that it automatically gets it. So anyway, it goes ahead and starts it up, clears it like you said, and then commences the steps as it should. And then comes back to the application once it completes that step, and it checks it off that it's done. So it's not automatically progressing to the next step, so at this point I am having to click a button for it to continue. It's kept the same object for the what-in because it's a property, and it continues to perform the next step, which it went to the click to add the screen button. So it's done that. And then, why am I getting it to you know why? The browser has this yes box. Forgot about that. So, for some reason my security is really, really high. So then it comes back, it's finished that, the next box is checked. I'll go ahead and start it again. It's going to continue its next subsequent step, entering in the password. It's completed that, and then it says please fill in the CAPTCHA. So then I can continue and fill in the CAPTCHA. Let's say that we know I entered the CAPTCHA in wrong. Okay, so this is where my auto detect step is coming in. So I auto detect, and what I'm looking for here is if there's text on the screen that says please re-enter your password, then I'm going to know that I need to do the autofill text step again. So I'm going to say this is the next step that needs to be performed. So the invoke step then says, okay, if that needs to be performed, then go ahead and perform step number 2. And we'll hold on just a second. And so essentially it repopulates the password. So yeah, see, I did it wrong, and again, I'll go ahead and auto detect my step and let it run, and it populates it back in. So it gives me lots of chances to do that. So let me just finish off by saying that this is great and everything. Notice I had to click this several times, and I had to click this. So to counteract both of those concepts, I actually put in a timer on the form that's automatically going to come in after 60 seconds and redo those activities. So if I delete this, even delete the username, after a minute, and by the way, this was working on 1/4 of a second, but it got a little annoying to try to debug, so I increased the timer to be 1 minute while in debug mode. And but after a minute, this form is going to be detected that it has this text on the screen, and it's going to repopulate. It's going to know that we're in this step still, even though the application thinks we finished this step and we should be on to the CAPTCHA step next. It's going to redo this last step here. So notice that the timer kicked in, and it's going to go ahead and re-perform that one last step, and check box that it's completed it once it's done. So that's pretty much. Well, so I didn't talk to you about how the detail of the code of it. Let me spend a moment to express the detail of how the code works. So you had everything in the form code before, which is great, but I changed it such that it now invokes, it utilizes an object which is called, oops, let me go ahead and stop this for the time being. So it invokes the whole encapsulation of the code for Google is contained in oops, I'm in the wrong code here, is contained in this one object just called Google, where is it? Oh, here it is, Google account creation, so OGoog. And notice it has with events because there are a couple events that got raised. And so OGoog is where I have pretty much all the code that is necessary to populate the events of what we've seen here. Now OGoog is this Google account creation, and that implements a base class that I call browser process. And so browser process is kind of like the base, really basic stuff. It just has it does know about the browser property, so that so we take care of the whole browser aspect there. And then it also establishes some base class elements that I want, like the 2 events of an error message, a step is going to be completed, detecting a step, invoking a step, and also the logging and then the steps in general. And this is probably where it comes to the single part that we need to identify is these steps. So there is a required attribute or property called steps that you must define in the Google the browser process, and for this case Google account creation. And so these steps I've added, it's a list, and it's a list of steps. And what are steps? I add step MCC login, add account, fill info, and post CAPTCHA. And these are just constants that I've defined here, which for display purposes they have 3 attributes. One is the step ID, the simple name of a step, and then a description, which isn't even used, but it's just because I felt like putting it there. And so this is the description that will be shown in that checkbox diagram that I showed before. And then the steps are sequential, so that is kind of required to know which step is from the next to the next. And then I do have the detect step, which only really works for that one thing right now, which is re-enter your password, and it detects, well, if it sees that, then I know that I got to do this. And step 2. Okay, agreed. So it is a base class, but the base class does implement an interface just to make the coding a little easier. So the same things pretty much as the base class had, which are the 2 events, the browser property, steps, detecting the step, and invoking a step. And then steps, notice it's just a list of browser steps. And browser steps was a structure. I changed it from a structure to a class. I personally really like structures, but the problem is there's one difference between a class and a structure that I didn't realize existed, which is a structure always has an instance, whereas a class can be a null reference. If I had said that to myself a year ago, I wouldn't have known what I meant. But what that I determined is you can say if browser step is nothing, you can't do that with a structure. A structure always exists, but a class, there you go. And I think I start to understand what that means now, that it's a value type instead of a reference type. So yes, a browser step, there you go, you got it. So yes, there's this basic class, which really this is a must inherit. That's the only thing I would like to add to this. Must inherit, I think. Oh no, this is a must inherit. So there's a step. What is a browser step? There's an identifier, there's a name, description, and that's it. And then when you invoke a new one, and that's what I did here on this page. Is I said there's a step equals a new browser step, and it's this structure, and then I added these to a list. And this list represents all the things that are in the Google account creation. And as soon as you do that, then the form will look pretty and have the 4 steps here. And yes, so let me just qualify where we're at here. Notice that I'm already at this point. Now let's say we did restart the application. Because I have my capture of, I can actually just pick up where I was, even though I wasn't. Even though I'm not at that step anymore, even though this is a completely new instance of the application, I can actually still do I don't even have to click this. I can do an auto detect, and it'll figure out that my browser window is here, and which step I'm now on, and then start on that exact step. The reason it's taking a minute here is because that browser detection seems to take a little bit to kick in, so that's just a what-in limitation for some reason. So anyway, that's the basic essence of it. So going back, I utilized yes, I did have this base class, which utilized inheritance from a basic interface, and then I implemented that class in the Google account creation, and we can do the same thing for Bing, Facebook, etc. So I've just done it for this first one. Things that we'll need to add on to make this work right with our other processes is the integration with email. It looks like you got some inferences already for that. So I think that should round this off to allowing for more agile development that can be done for really any placement.